How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I thought I'd do something a little bit more chill and easier today because I've kind of been falling behind schedule a little bit with everything going on in memberships and all the live streams and all that. And so I thought this would be fun to do. This is an article actually from Medium, medium.com. And this one caught my attention because it's ranking every MVP season in the 21st century. And this is fun for a couple reasons. One, we're starting up the new NBA season, which I am very, very excited about. And I'm not just saying that. You guys know I'm an old school basketball fan, and, eras from generations past, like the 90s and 2000s, tend to be my favorite time of basketball. But man, I'm really excited about the way things are going with the NBA recently. Still think the All-Star game sucks, that's for sure. We need to fix All-Star weekend, definitely. But this new batch of players that are coming into the NBA, I think Victor Wembanyama is about to have a monster season. We've got a really like a big group of likable stars in the NBA at the moment. And then these past couple years of the NBA playoffs, the intensity has picked up, things have become more physical. So I'm not gonna lie, this is the most excited I've been for a upcoming NBA season in a long time, long time. And so because of that, I want to talk about the MVP race, what I'm looking forward to. I think Nikola Jokic is going to be in the running. Obviously, SGA and the Thunder, seeing how they can defend their title. And then, even people are getting hyped up about Wemby. I don't think the Spurs are going to be good enough, but, we'll see how that all plays out. But seeing that we're talking about MVPs and an NBA season, let's go ahead and look at this one. So, obviously, a hot take right off the jump. But guys, let me know in the comment section a couple things. How your list would change up from this list and from my list, and also who do you think is going to be the MVP of this season in the NBA. And so we'll get into this. Also, one last thing before I unpack this. This is actually a video topic I've wanted to do on my own, but not just for the 21st century. I'm talking every season in NBA history. Like, I want to rank, every season starting from the NBA's infancy. And so I think that would be tons of fun, and I will do that at some point. But right now, 21st century, we got Steve Nash in 2006. This is a hot take, so let's go ahead and read what Medium has to say about this one a little bit. Steve Nash's 2006 MVP was certain to land at the bottom of this list. Wow, certain, okay. As it does in almost everybody's. A lot of people believe the award should have gone to Kobe Bryant, who averaged 35, 5, and 4. From an individual level, I've talked about how Kobe deserved it, but again, the Lakers were like a 7 seed at that point, so I'm not surprised they didn't give it to him. LeBron James put up 31, 7, and 6. Yeah, so from a number standpoint, the Cavs were a 4th seed, and the Mavericks to 60 wins. All major advanced stats were also led by either Nowitzki or James. We can argue all day about who deserved the MVP, but it wasn't Steve Nash. And his MVP season pales in comparison to everyone on this list, despite the elite 18, 10, 5. I just think they're being too harsh. If you don't understand Steve Nash's MVP season, it's crazy that I'm defending him because, again, I was a Lakers fan, a Kobe fan who wanted him to win MVP back then. I thought he should have won it in the 05 to 06 season. But, again, you just don't understand the impact that the Phoenix Suns, Steve Nash Suns had in the mid-2000s. They were a run-and-gun transition, 7-second offense, 3-point shooting team. And, we have a lot of teams now that shoot a lot of threes and play up-tempo and are exciting. But these guys kind of revolutionized the game. And they were putting up a ridiculous amount of points at a time where there was just less points being scored. And so, I don't know. I don't feel like this guy was leading the way. It was Steve Nash and it was Mike D'Antoni that made that happen. And I don't feel like, Nash is being properly recognized for the impact he had on the NBA. If you want to give a guy like, say, Steph Curry extra points for the impact he had in revolutionizing the NBA and making it a 3-point shooting era, then why can't we give Steve Nash bonus points for the way he turned the game into more... He didn't necessarily transform it, but he led it in that direction where it became more about transition and 3-point shooting and all that. They were just well ahead of the curve. And so, I feel like they're being a little bit harsh here to say, it's certain he didn't deserve it. He should be at the bottom of the list. It pales in comparison. Nah, the vernacular here is way too strong. 25, Derrick Rose in 2011. kind of a similar thing, actually. I mean, people were really excited about Rose. He was the youngest MVP in NBA history. LeBron had been kind of dominating the award for a little bit at this point. Plus, LeBron was kind of being recognized as the NBA's villain for the fact that he just joined the Miami Heat. So it would have been hard to give LeBron the MVP, especially when he's now got a legitimate superstar in Wade and Bosh alongside of him. And, the numbers weren't necessarily monstrous from Derrick Rose, but they were an amazing Chicago Bulls team. You see here 25 points, 4 rebounds, 7.7 assists. Not from a statistical standpoint, not the most dominant season ever. But you also have to remember that the Chicago Bulls didn't really score a lot of points, so he was a large chunk of their offense. And I'd probably have it around the bottom of the list as well. You could definitely argue that even though he won the MVP, the true best player of the NBA that season was actually LeBron James. But obviously LeBron had his playoff shortcomings, which shouldn't play into this and didn't really play into this for the voters. But still, it was a special year for D-Rose, special year for the Bulls. And anytime there's a big surprising season like that, the voters like to lean in that direction. They like a good story, a good narrative, something exciting and new. Number 24, Allen Iverson in 2001. This one also seems a little bit low. I feel like the person who's ranking this list so far, based on what I'm seeing and based on some of their logic, is probably a pretty young person who's probably looking at numbers and field goal percentages quite a bit. Allen Iverson was massive for these Philadelphia 76ers. They were 56-26. They had the best record in the Eastern Conference. He didn't carry this team outright. They had a great defense, but it would be fair to say that Allen Iverson carried his team offensively because they needed him to be scoring all of those baskets. And so he easily scored the greatest percentage of his team's points out of any player in the league that season. And the answer needs respect for the impact he had, how much he was leaned upon, the numbers he put up. And that's before you even factor in how impressive his playoff campaign was, because that didn't factor into this at all. So, yeah, maybe there's an argument for Shaquille O'Neal in 2001, but for me, I got no problems with Allen Iverson winning it, and because of how hard he was leaned upon, I think it got to have it higher than this, personally. Steve Nash, 2005. I do agree that his 2005 MVP campaign was actually better than his 2008. His facilitating was even better. It's not 2008, than his 2006. But his facilitating was better in 2005. And this is when it really, when they broke out and, the 7-second offense Suns really started to shock the basketball world. And the turnaround, too, from where they were the previous season when they brought Steve Nash in, you got to recognize that. And Kobe had a really bad year that year. I think this is the year where Shaq's always complaining about him not winning MVP, but, to me, that's silly. Steve Nash was more deserving this year. Steph Curry in 2015. It's funny, as far as from a statistical standpoint, this was definitely one of the tamest MVP seasons probably ever. 23.8 points, 4.3 rebounds, 7.7 assists, 48% shooting. And, but again, they won 67 games. He was obviously the leader and the, just the engine of that offense. Everybody played off of Steph. And so he did an excellent job there, and this was kind of the beginning of the Warriors taking off. And how would I rank it in comparisons to these others? I would definitely say Allen Iverson's needs to be above Steph Curry in 2015. Having Iverson below that, especially how much he was leaned upon, that's kind of egregious if you ask me. I would rank Derrick Rose ahead of Steph Curry as well. 21, Kobe Bryant in 2008. Yeah, this MVP season for Kobe's always been kind of a weird one for me, and here's why. Was Kobe deserving that year? Sure. His main competition was Chris Paul of the New Orleans Hornets, who had a monster year of his own. But the reason why it was weird for me is because Kobe was more deserving of the MVP in 2007 and in 2006. He averaged 35 points per game and was first team all defense in 2006. Then he averaged 32 points per game and was first team all defense in 2007. And then this year, after they got Pau Gasol, naturally they get Pau, they start winning more. But Kobe's numbers are more, I want to say pedestrian, but more down to earth. And then they give him the MVP. This is basically, congrats on winning. Now that you have Pau, here's an MVP award. So for me, it was always kind of weird because I felt like Kobe was better the previous 2 seasons. And I feel like a lot of Laker fans experienced that. But that's just the politics of the MVP award, how it works. You know, you're rewarded not just for how you play individually, but for having a good team. And so, yeah, you got Pau. Here's your MVP, Kobe. It was almost like a lifetime achievement award or a career achievement award. Oh, this is savage. The photo they got here for Dirk Nowitzki is savage. So Dirk Nowitzki, number 20, his 2007 MVP. For those of you who don't know the context behind the situation, the Dallas Mavericks had the best record in the NBA. They won 67 games that year. And so they were a legitimate force heading into the NBA playoffs. What happens? They meet up with the 8th-seeded Golden State Warriors in the first round that had guys like Baron Davis on the team. And they had some really good players, but the Dallas Mavericks were heavily favored. Now, the Mavericks did not do well against those Warriors in the regular season either. So there was some writing on the wall. I do remember talking about this in the mid-2000s, mid to late-ish 2000s, saying, hey, these Warriors can challenge the Mavericks because I remember what happened in that regular season. And lo and behold, they actually knocked them out. And so what happens? They have the MVP ceremony after Dirk Nowitzki's been eliminated, and it was, without question, the most awkward MVP ceremony that I have ever seen. It is nuts. And so, yeah, really, really sad for Dirk. From a numbers standpoint, also kind of tame compared to, even by his own standards, to be honest. 24.6 points, 8.9 rebounds, 3.4 assists, 50% shooting. And so he was ridiculously efficient, though, too, as well, 50, 40, 90 season. But yeah, personally, this is tough because originally I wanted to say you could have this one lower, but this image right here of him being eliminated out of the first round, this shouldn't affect our logic because it's a regular season award. It doesn't matter what happened in the playoffs. The MVP award is a regular season award. And people often conflate the two, and we're not supposed to do that. So yeah, this is probably a proper spot, to be honest. Maybe a little bit lower, but I wouldn't penalize it too hard because of what happened in the playoffs. Number 19, Tim Duncan in 2002. Yeah, I'm actually surprised. I feel like this should be higher. Duncan averaged 25.5 points, 12.7 rebounds, 3.7 assists, 2.5 blocks on 51% shooting. Why the heck is this only 19? I mean, talk about a well-rounded MVP season from a team that was a, championship contender. Let me read this here to see what their logic was. I don't think there's any doubt that Tim Duncan should have won the 2002 MVP. The only other worthy winner was Shaq, who split the advanced stats with Duncan. Both players led their teams to 58 wins. But Tim's Spurs won the tiebreaker from their matchup with the Lakers that season, an almost 26 point per game season in the dead ball era. If anything, you're talking it up. So why'd you only rank it 19th? I would have ranked that higher. I definitely would have ranked it higher over this one. So let's be fair. Well, this was some monstrous numbers from Embiid. Did Embiid deserve this award over Nikola Jokic? I don't think so. From an advanced stats standpoint, I would definitely give it to Jokic. Embiid was campaigning hard for this MVP, and he was rewarded for the fact that he campaigned for it. But still, 33 points, 10 rebounds, 4.2 assists, a steal, 1.7 blocks on 55% shooting. I feel like this season from Embiid, as much as I think Jokic deserved the MVP, I feel like this season is low-key starting to become underrated because people take a dump on it so much that people are starting to downplay how good he actually was. And so, yeah, actually, after further consideration, I'm probably okay with where it's ranked, to be honest. Russell Westbrook in 2017. From a seeding standpoint, from a team success standpoint, not one of the better seasons in NBA history. But again, it was the first triple-double since Oscar Robertson, triple-double season since Oscar Robertson in 1962. And after the departure of Kevin Durant, the OKC Thunder absolutely needed all of these stats here. Almost 32 points per game, 11 rebounds, 10.4 assists, 1.6 steals, 42.5% shooting. Yeah, I mean, they were leaning hard upon him that year. Westbrook was absolutely on a mission. This was kind of his screw you season to the league, and it was epic to watch. It was really, really epic to watch, so I'm okay with where it's at. Giannis in 2019, 28 points, 12.5 rebounds, 6 assists, 1.3 steals, and 1.5 blocks on 58% shooting. Now, what's funny is, as crazy as it sounds, these numbers are pretty tame by Giannis' standards, especially over like the last 6 seasons in the NBA. Giannis is just a stat fantasy freak. Like, from a fantasy basketball perspective, this guy is almost always a top 3 pick in the league. And so, yeah, great run from Giannis. I can't hate on it. If anything, it should probably be top 15, but 2018, James Harden. I've always thought this season maybe gets pushed a little too hard. Having it ahead of Giannis, I wouldn't do that because at this point, James Harden still really needed to improve his defense, and he has over the years. He's improved a little bit, but this was a point where he was still being frequently criticized for his effort on that end of the court. But offensively, I mean, he was solid. Look at that, 30.4 points and still managing to get up 8.8 assists to his teammates, and 45% shooting. Did get 1.8 steals, so he was quick with the hands, but some of that on-ball defense was definitely lacking that year. But the other thing is, they were 65 and 17. So critique him all you want for his defense, talk about the playoff, whatever, but it was helping him win in the regular season, and the regular season is what matters when you're looking at this MVP award. So, basically some of the points I made, you can kind of undo if you're just looking at the regular season, how it went in and of itself. Now, I think some people are going to look at this one and they're going to be a little bit upset that Tim Duncan in 2003, I mean, that was a legendary season for Tim Duncan, flat out. Just one of the greatest individual seasons in NBA history, but that's usually when you're factoring in the playoffs and the NBA Finals especially as well. But from a regular season standpoint, not nearly as impressive as his 2002 season. 23 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks, 51% shooting. Still great numbers, but he definitely had better numbers in 2002. And so we all know who Duncan is. You don't need me to elaborate too much, but I think I would have actually ranked Duncan's 2002 regular season ahead of his 2003 regular season. Obviously, if you bring the postseason into it, it's no competition. But from just a regular season standpoint, 2002 should be higher than this one. Nikola Jokic in number 13, 2021. So now we're getting close to the better half of this list. And so Jokic had 26 points, 11 rebounds, 8.3 assists, 1.3 steals, 56.6% shooting. And what's funny is, it's the same thing with Jokic that I was talking about with Giannis earlier. These numbers are so freaking tame by Jokic's modern standards. Last year, he took his scoring up by like 4 points, averaged more rebounds, averaged a couple more assists, was even more efficient from the field and way more efficient from three-point range. And so it's crazy how Jokic just seems to get better and better statistically every single year. But still an impressive year. A lot of people were just marveled at how well he did for this team, and at certain points during the year absolutely carried these Nuggets. And I definitely think this is in a good location, maybe even a little bit higher would have been good. SGA, this most recent 2025 season, he did have a very, very talented group overall. You guys all saw that as they ended up winning the NBA championship after having a 68-win regular season. And so 32.7 points, basically 33 points, 5 rebounds, 6.4 assists, 1.7 steals, 52% shooting. His game is so beautiful, so polished. Everybody, of course, is going to complain about the foul merchant thing and, how he flops on the offensive end, like basically baits for foul calls and stuff. Is that true? Yes, but also the guy is stupid talented. His footwork and his game is ridiculously polished. And, obviously he was just recognized for what he did in the regular season, but, he made a lot of history in the postseason as well, being the first, scoring champion to go on and win the championship and the finals MVP since, Shaquille O'Neal in 2000. And so some really select historic company that he was involved in. I am shocked that Giannis in 2020 isn't in the top 10. Wow. When this happened, a lot of people were saying this was one of the greatest statistical seasons and just seasons overall in NBA history. Having this outside of the top 10, that's a hot take. So he averaged 29.5 points, 13.6 rebounds, which is just insane. I think the last time a guy had that kind of numbers where he's scoring that many points on that many rebounds was Moses Malone in the 70s, late 70s or early 80s. Moses Malone was doing that. And then 55% shooting. Not only was he the MVP, but he was the Defensive Player of the Year that season as well. And I think the only guys to win MVP and be the DPOY in the same season is Giannis, Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, and I think that's it. I think it's just the three of them. And at the time, I think he also had the greatest player efficiency rating, the greatest PER of any player in NBA history for a single season. So yeah, to have this top 11, that's certainly a hot take. I don't know if he has anything negative to say about it. That season, the Bucks were on pace to win 62 games despite the short season due to the pandemic and the subsequent bubble. Yeah, I mean, not really. It doesn't get much stronger than that. Well, apparently you think there's 10 seasons stronger than that. And so, yeah, to me, this is definitely top 10. Probably much higher than this, to be honest, for my list personally. Let's see here. Jokic in 2022. This guy is always in the running, man. 27 points, 14 rebounds, 8 assists, 1.5 steals, 58% shooting. Just ridiculously efficient again. Personally, I think I would have ranked for the defensive impact. I'm definitely putting Giannis ahead of this season from Jokic, but still great stuff on the offensive end from the Joker. And so, yeah, and then they talk about some of his advanced stats, win shares, VORP, player efficiency rating, box plus minus. Dude killed it in basically every aspect. And he's usually dominating those year in and year out. So LeBron James in 2012. 27.1 points, 7.9 rebounds, 6.2 assists, 2 steals, 53% shooting. So it was a lockout shortened season. And although the team was good, they were definitely much better in 2013, where they went on to win 27 straight regular season games, and LeBron's stats were definitely much better at that point as well. I actually think I would drop this specific LeBron season below Jokic and Giannis in 2020. Still a great season, but not quite up to the standards of, say, the 2013 season, that's for sure. And but regardless, pretty solid. He was in contention of the Defensive Player of the Year. Some LeBron fans especially think that's pretty controversial, but they gave the award to Marc Gasol, who was actually second team all defense, but the people that determine who is on first and second all defense teams are different than the MVP voters, so it still kind of made sense. And based on the advanced stats, it did belong to Marc Gasol, but still, great season from LeBron. We know what he did in the playoffs, even though it's just about the regular season. But again, for a lockout shortened season, I feel like maybe this is a little too generous, especially when this is your level of competition. Number 8, Kevin Garnett in 2004. Yeah, this one was awesome. Is it fair to his teammates at the time to say he carried the Minnesota Timberwolves? I mean, he carried them more so than a lot of players did. 24.2 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, 1.5 steals, and 2.2 blocks on 50% shooting. I believe this season from KG was one of only 5 seasons in NBA history from an individual player for him to lead his team in all 5 stat categories. And so he led the Timberwolves in scoring. He led the Timberwolves in rebounding, led them in assists, led them in steals, led them in blocks. And on top of that, they were still one of the better seeded teams in the league. For a franchise that is historically the most losing franchise in NBA history, KG does not get enough love for 2004. So 8 is a great location, but you could even argue higher up on the list. Number 7, LeBron James in 2010. Strong numbers from LeBron, almost 30 points per game, 7.3 rebounds, 8.6 assists, 50% shooting, 1.6 steals, which is actually pretty solid for LeBron as well. They won 61 games. I don't think people remember this season as positively for LeBron because of the sour ending that it had in the NBA playoffs after, they had really, really high expectations. But yeah, end of his Cleveland days, LeBron was just such an athletically dominant specimen. And so, yeah, it's tough to say if I'd have it 7th, but LeBron was crazy in Cleveland, and people think now, oh, he's as good as ever. He's still just as athletic as ever. Man, go back and watch some first stint LeBron Cleveland Cavaliers footage. That dude had speed and leaping ability that was different. And so, yeah, this guy was a freak, and you can see it in the stat sheet. Nikola Jokic in 2024. 26.4 points, 12.4 rebounds, 9 assists, 58% shooting. And what's funny is, again, these numbers are so tame compared to what he did in 2025. And so I don't know, to a certain extent, Jokic's disadvantage is the fact that he's competing against himself, and his numbers at this point are getting so ridiculous that this is starting to, as insane as it sounds, look pedestrian by his standards. So I'm really not trying to lose track of the fact that, man, this is ridiculous. Jokic is such an incredible anomaly. Dude was incredible in 2024. The advanced stats were always there. I mean, what can I say that hasn't already been said? Don't take this dude for granted. Shaq in 2000, the 99 to 2000 season. This, for me, was peak Shaq from an athletically dominant form. This Shaq was the perfect blend between, the muscle-bound Shaq that we saw in, 2002 and 2003 and the Orlando Magic Shaq that still had that athleticism, leaping ability. I mean, you guys saw how high he got off the ground when he caught that lob pass from Kobe in the Western Conference Finals. But some aspects that people forget about Shaq, I mean, not only are these numbers ridiculous, 30 points, 14 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks, 57% shooting, but the Lakers won 67 games. It was the best regular season that the Shaq and Kobe Lakers ever had. But what people also forget is Shaq nearly won Defensive Player of the Year this season as well. He was second. He was the runner-up to Alonzo Mourning, and there was a lot of people actually that thought Shaq should have won it this year. And so, yeah, he could have been only the 4th player in NBA history to win the MVP award and the Defensive Player of the Year award in the same season. And it's not just dominance from a stat standpoint, physically dominant. Shaq was imposing his will. He was getting the opposing teams in foul trouble. This dude was just such a problem for multiple reasons. On top of that, the gravity of Shaq. Shaq having teams collapse the defense upon him made guys like Robert Horry better, Derek Fisher better, Brian Shaw better, even Kobe to a certain extent. He opened up guys on the perimeter quite a bit. With just his gravitational pull. And so, yeah, for me, top 5 is justified for sure. LeBron James in 2009, I gotta admit, are we getting the vibe that Medium, whoever put this article out, is kind of a LeBron fan? There is a lot of really generous LeBron rankings here, and we still haven't got to 2013 yet, which is fine because 2013 was insane. But 2009 LeBron, really awesome year for him. 28.4 points, 7.6 rebounds, 7.2 assists, 1.7 steals on 49% shooting. Athletically, he was insane. Cavs won 66 games, which was a franchise record. And the other thing about this season that's nuts is, you wouldn't look at this roster and think it's a 66 win roster, not by any means. And so I feel like he's definitely getting extra points for that. The other thing is LeBron, I think this is one of those other seasons where he did lead his team in every stat category, just like Kevin Garnett in 2004. 2009 LeBron is one of those 5 or 6 guys maybe at this point. So yeah, just an incredible season. From a stats standpoint, definitely not up to the standards of some of the other ones we've seen, like Jokic and Giannis and those other guys. But you also have to remember this was, the late 2000s, and, scoring was not as abundant as it was in the modern NBA. So yeah, there's some things to be said about that. But yeah, pretty good ranking for LeBron. Kevin Durant, 2014. This is pretty high, but this was a great MVP season for KD. This is the one where he told his mom that she's the real MVP. Yeah, exactly. It says it right there. 32 points per game, 7.4 rebounds, 5.5 assists. I also believe this was so not quite 50-40-90, but pretty darn close. 50-39-87 shooting splits. He got a 50-40-90 season somewhere other than this year, but he was pretty darn close to it. And so was massive for the OKC Thunder. They won 59 games. And this was, say what you will about KD winning finals MVP with the Warriors, all that sort of thing. But from an individual standpoint, this is where he was at his peak. I don't think I'd have him top 3. I don't think I'd rank him above 2000 Shaq. I mean, you're literally talking about the best Shaquille O'Neal we have ever seen. And this guy was one of the most physically dominating players in NBA history. So for him to be 5 and KD in 2014 at 3, I think I'd have Shaq higher than that. But yeah, I'm not going to say it's not deserved. KD was a monster that year. Number 2, LeBron James in 2013. I mean, we all know this season, Miami was just insane. Not that he didn't have help. He still had Wade, he had Bosh, then he had Ray Allen making 3-point shots as well. So he did have plenty of help. But especially from a leadership and record-setting standpoint, at one point they won 27 straight regular season games. Just insane. They were also solid defensively, which LeBron was a big part of that. 27 points per game, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, 1.7 steals on 56.5% shooting. Guys, this guy's a small forward. 56.5% shooting. That is ridiculous. That's like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in his prime, skyhooking his way to 56.5% some seasons, and LeBron was averaging that level of efficiency on 27 points per game as a small forward. Truly goofy stuff, and somehow LeBron was also fantastic from three-point range this year as well, hitting over 40% of his threes. So yeah, LeBron, this was an incredible year. Some people even think this should be number 1. Some people don't think this should be top 2. I don't have a problem with it being ranked this high because it is so incredible from an efficiency standpoint, and they did set records. And then number 1, yes, I would agree with this. Number 1, Steph Curry in 2016. Listen, guys, I get it. What happened to the playoffs sours this season a little bit because they did blow the 3-1 lead to LeBron James in the NBA Finals and the Cleveland Cavaliers, all that yada, yada, yada. It's a regular season award, and we can't forget about what he did that regular season. 30.1 points per game. He had a 50-40-90 season, but it's even better than that. It was a 50-45% from three-point range, and he made 400 three-pointers per game. Now, what's crazy is, since 2016, the three-point shots, or the amount of three-pointers being attempted, has inflated to an even greater extent. But even with that being said, Steph Curry has still held the record for about a decade now. So it was just a nuts season. At the time, I believe it was the highest scoring 50-40-90 season in NBA history, was the game's leading scorer. Nearly got to 7 assists per game, which is really, really high. He also led the NBA in steals that season as well. So, and then I haven't even got to the point, they went 73-9. They went 73-9, the only unanimous MVP season in NBA history. I will say Shaq should have got it in 2000. They gave one vote to Allen Iverson, which was a crime. This should have been unanimous as well. But Steph Curry set history in more ways, than I have fingers, basically, this season. And so to me, this is number one. Was he an elite defensive player? Was he first team all defense? No, but like in the same way where we look at Nikola Jokic and how special he is as one of the greatest offensive players of all time, 2016 Steph Curry will always be looked at and revered as one of the greatest individual seasons of all time. He, for a short period of time, he did replace LeBron James as the face of the league. And I mean that. For this season, if Steph Curry maintained this level of play, he would have been the face of the league moving forward, but he didn't. It was just this one kind of season where he was just out of this world, man. Is Steph always good? Yes. But 2016 Steph was different, absolutely different. And so I definitely have some disagreements with this list. It's not the worst, list I've ever seen. I definitely think Bleacher Reports would have been a lot worse than this. Definitely a lot of love for LeBron. I mean, how many LeBrons alone do we have in the top 10? We got 9, 7, 4. Damn. You got LeBron almost making up half of the top 10 here. So I definitely feel like this was a LeBron fan who made this list. LeBron definitely deserves some high spots, but nearly making up half of the top 10 is kind of crazy. Giannis in 2011, he should have been higher. Not 2011, 11th place from 2020. Again, these numbers, while being the defensive player of the year, while having one of the most amazing seasons ever from an advanced stats standpoint, and you're not in the top 10, like, come on, man, you got to give him more love than that. And so, yeah, and then a little too harsh on Steve Nash as well. A little too harsh, but yeah, not the worst list I've ever seen. So guys, let me know how your list would change up from, mediums, this guy Edwin's list here. Do you think some of my opinions are whack? I want to hear it. And then who do you think is going to be the MVP of this NBA season? I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comment section below. Guys, thank you for watching the videos as always. As I've told you before, we're going through a rough time here on this channel, but you guys have been excellent at supporting. And thank you to all of my, I think now 150 members or so. I will have a link to become a member in the pinned comment if you are interested, and you will get weekly live streams and bonus videos if you do that. So please consider that. But thanks for watching as always. Make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.